Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be having a look at N64 games playing on the Steam Deck using the Mupen64 emulator through RetroArch and using the emulation station front end. So this is 1080 degrees snowboarding, which wasn't quite as good as I remembered it actually. I'm glad to say that this is a powerful enough device to play 99.9% of N64 games flawlessly. Although, going through the 20 games that you'll see here, just a couple of times I had a little bit of audio stutter, but apart from that, everything did play really, really well, including some of the traditionally difficult games to play. This is Automobili Lamborghini, one I'd never played before. And I was surprised going through the N64 library just how many racing games there were. There's absolutely stacks, so you will see a fairly decent selection of the better ones today. As I said, we've got 20 games to cover there or thereabouts in this video. And I just show about a minute or so of each one, just so you get a feel for how N64 games handle on the Steam Deck. Now, I didn't need to remap any keys or anything like that, or buttons. Everything just works straight out of the box. It's already configured for you. But some of the games which are a little bit fiddlier, say something like Goldeneye, for example, where you've got far more controls, they took a little bit more of getting used to. This was really good, this one. This was a standout. Beetle Adventure Racing, which is one I'd never even heard of it, let alone played it. And I found it was really good. One that you used to drive classic Beetles basically, and this was the sort of the late 90s, early 2000s version of the Beetles. But I believe you can play like the 50s and 60s like Herbie versions as well if you want to. Really, really nice environments this, and something a bit more unusual than a racetrack, to be going around sort of streets and cobbled roads and things like that. It was a welcome change, to be honest, and a few odd stunts as well. So yeah, this was good. This is one that I'll definitely go back and play again, because I'd never played this one before, not once. My Patreon and channel members there just gone through. Thank you very much to those guys and girls. This is a classic, and I always love playing the Castlevania games when I see them on my systems. So I always try and put in a little bit of footage on them. This one was a little bit different because the ones I've been playing most recently have been sort of 2D platforming in effect, and this one takes it up a notch, going 3D. And I think on the whole, I actually prefer the 2D ones rather than this 3D one. But I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that. But which Castlevania do you like better? Which style? The 3D ones or the 2D? I think probably the 2D, because they were the ones I played with initially back in the day. They were the first ones I ever played on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Quite nice. It's fairly linear, this one, when I played it, and you're just sort of following a path. This is obviously quite early on in the game. You're just sort of getting used to your weapons and what have you, and the environment. Yeah, not bad. One that's you could really lose yourself in, the Castlevania games. And there was a second one actually for the N64 as well. This is a Crusin Exotica. There's a few cruising racing games for the N64. Once again, this was alright, and it did sort of remind me of Crazy Taxi. the Sega game, just with the style of the cars, slightly funky, Although, you know, unlike Crazy Taxi where you've got a city to go around, this is very much a track. But yeah, handles really well. I thought this was a good bit of fun. I liked all the bumping into the other cars as well as you're going along. Now this is Diddy Kong Racing. Maybe, you know, after Mario Kart, this is the one, you know, probably one of the most fun games. But really, it is just like Mario Kart, but with the Diddy Kong, Donkey Kong characters. That's not to take anything away from it, though. It is still a good fun racer, this one. And this is one that's usually quite tricky to emulate, even on some Android phones. So, as you can see, no such issues here. Everything plays absolutely fine. Try and avoid the dinosaur next time round. Now this was, I had high hopes for this one, Earthworm Jim. This was a cartoon series which, when I was going around, you see the colours there, like really almost like psychedelic. The contrast is up really high, and basically it doesn't really give you much in the way. You have to go around and sort of do a certain you've got to get so many of these things to unlock even the first level before you can get started. It's a real roundabout way just to get started into a game, and I didn't think it was very intuitive at all. The cartoon series is great. The game, perhaps not so much. It reminded me, in a funny sort of way, to the Me and My Katamari games. That weird style of like off-the-wall cartoony sort of gameplay. That's what it reminded me of, the Katamari games. And these N64 games, these isometric 3D ones, you really do notice the camera not really following the action these days, like on a modern game. You do sort of feel it in these N64 games, which on the whole are, you know, best part of 25 years or more old now. So we have to bear that in mind. This was cool. I do vaguely remember playing this, but I never owned it. I think I had it, one of my mates had this one, Excitebike 64, but it's pretty good. Once you got the hang of the controls, it was excellent. But of course, like the real sort of rallying sport, the courses are actually quite short. So to do a circuit doesn't take too long, and I managed to catch up in the end. But this one really felt good to play in the hand, and something a little bit different. This one I had when I first bought my N64, which was Extreme G, and it sort of reminded me a bit of like F-Zero. It's got that blistering speed. It's got a pretty good soundtrack, except you're on a bike here, and yeah, it's not bad. You know, admittedly, I've only done the first sort of course here, but I remember being a little bit more exciting than this back in the day, shall we say. But it's still alright. As you can see, it moves along at quite a pace. And yeah, I remember vividly buying my original N64 from Toys R Us. And I got this one, Mario Kart, and I think I picked up I think I got Turok Dinosaur Hunter as well. Those were the three that I picked up when I bought my N64 first time round. As I recall, it was a while back now. This one I'd never played before, Fighter Destiny 2. And I'll never play it again either. Bit of a weird one, this. It didn't flow very well, so you know, as soon as you sort of got your opponent on the ropes or did a move, it sort of stops gameplay and you just get points, and you have to sort of rack up the points to actually win the bout, as it were, the fight. A bit of a weird way of doing it, and I wasn't really a fan. On top of that, once again, really weird sort of bright, colourful graphics on this particular level, which I thought didn't really suit a fighting game like that. Although the character I'm fighting is the clown, so it's sort of a clown, sort of fairgroundy scenario. So here is the fabled Goldeneye. Obviously played this one back in the day, and it's still a bona fide classic, one of the best James Bond games ever made. Although there are a couple of good ones for the original Xbox. From Russia With Love is particularly good. But this is excellent. I mean, when it came out, it really was revolutionary. I played a few 4-player games I remember playing back in the day with my mates and absolutely loving it. And this was the first sort of console I ever remember playing 4 players, and in fact this was the first game that I ever played a 4-player on. I'm always a big James Bond fan, and this did not disappoint. It really did. The game's not overly difficult, but it's just such a great story, and you can just get sucked right into it. It just goes a little bit off the rails later on when you're facing villains that weren't actually in Goldeneye, you know, end of level bosses and stuff, but I'm not taking that away from it. It's still a great game. So yet another racer here, Hot Wheels. A bit like your Matchbox toys in the UK, Hot Wheels over in the States. And there you are on like a thin little track. And this was pretty cool. I love the designs of the cars. They're very reminiscent of like the 70s and 80s sort of funky Hot Wheels cars that were around then. Big massive mod engines and stuff. I suppose a modern day equivalent would be something like Trackmania, but this was good. I enjoyed this one, even though I'm not that particularly good at it, but it was good fun to play. Love me a bit of Hydro Thunder. This is one I also owned back in the day when I had my N64. I remember, you know, I bought those original games, as I said, and then 2 or 3 years later, maybe a bit longer than that, the console started appearing on the second-hand market because the GameCube was announced and on its way, and I would pick up basically consoles with game collections, like 10 or 15 games, something like that, and you could buy them back then with games for about 30 to 35, 40 pound in like little job lots, and I picked up maybe 3 or 4 N64 lots back then, so I had quite a nice little collection. I also had, and I do regret getting rid of this because it would have fitted nicely with my Star Wars collection, I actually had an N64 Star Wars Pod Racer edition, which had a really nice cardboard outer with the Star Wars graphics on, but sadly I got shot of all my original N64 stuff when I had a bit of a purge of my retro games about 6 or 7 years ago. I got rid of just about everything bar my Xbox collection. So this is a bona fide N64 classic. I'm going to show a little bit of footage here because we've seen Mario Kart a million times. It isn't bad on the N64, and I remember enjoying working my way through all the tracks and unlocking everything, and yeah, it is what it is. You know, Mario Kart is brilliant. I think it just takes a little bit of getting used to the sensitivity of Mario in his kart, but this one played absolutely fine, as you would expect. but I only had 20 games to try, and there was lots that I didn't get around to testing. I did have a quick go on Legends of Zelda, which was absolutely fine, but I didn't show that here. I've in the past played Super Mario World, which is also great. You know, as I said, 99.9% of every N64 game runs absolutely flawlessly on the Steam Deck, as you would expect. Mortal Kombat. So this is Mortal Kombat 4. Now, I'm a real fan of the Mortal Kombat games, but for some reason this doesn't seem quite right. Now, I've not put any hacks on, and it hasn't stretched the Mortal Kombat screen there to like widescreen to fit the Steam Deck, but they do look a little out of perspective. Maybe it's just me, but the picture just doesn't seem quite right. Anyway, not so much fun, this Mortal Kombat game, and I generally really like these. It just, seemed a bit, yeah, just not so much fun. Can't put my finger on why, but there you go. Now this is Namco Museum 64. So there was a series of Namco Museum games released for the PlayStation 1. And there was like 4 or 5 volumes, I believe. They're all really cool. But this was the one and only one that got released for the 64. And it had those 5 classic games, including the original Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man. And they are absolutely perfect arcade, pixel-perfect ports. So they're a lot of fun. They're not reissues. They're not designed to look or be playing any harder than what the originals were. They're just perfect. And because we've got the little analog joysticks on the Steam Deck, these play really, really well. And believe me, I could have. I'm a big Pac-Man fan, and I loved these back in the day. And I could have very, very easily played this one for several hours. All the old tricks work, where you can like hide in corners and stuff like that, which I remember when I used to play these a lot in the arcade. This is another one which didn't quite run as smoothly as I remember, but I don't really remember playing this on the N64. The first time I really played any Ridge Racer was either in the arcade or it was on the original PSP, which I had Ridge Racer as one of the launch games when I imported one from Japan. But this wasn't bad, you know, it's got the Ridge Racer hallmarks here, and the tracks are even familiar as well. It just didn't play quite as smoothly as I would have liked. But I just think that's down to the hardware that we're emulating rather than the Steam Deck. Now, looking ahead to next week, I'm going to do another video, if all goes to plan, with another selection of PSP games. PSP games, the original PSP, they just run so well on the Steam Deck that it does warrant a second video. Then after that, I'm going to do one focusing on all the early Atari systems. This is a fantastic one, and this is a remake of the arcade classic Robotron 64. And once again, fantastic on the Steam Deck because you've got the 2 analog joysticks, or the thumbsticks. So one is your direction, where you move your player, and the other one is where you're aiming your gun. And that's exactly how the arcade original was, where you had two massive beefy joysticks, and I would get transfixed watching players who were really, really good at Robotron. It was just one of the greatest games to watch, and I kid you not, this version of Robotron is super addictive, and I've played this one before and it's really, really good. So this one definitely becomes a recommended choice. You want to put this one on your deck. I definitely wouldn't recommend all the N64 games. I think it's very much going to be stick your favourites on there. Don't waste space putting on the entire ROM set, because there's just going to be a percentage you're just not going to want. And I'm certainly going to go through all my ROM sets and thin them down a bit and just keep the best sort of stuff that I do want. But it's lovely just to have a huge library at your fingertips. That is very, very nice to have. But yeah, Robotron 64, recommended. It's a good one. As was this. This was a revelation. I don't remember playing this one, but it is excellent. It's the remake of Space Invaders. Great stuff. Also a very good version for the PSP. In fact, there's a couple of versions for that, I believe, but this one was great. This is definitely recommended. Plays beautifully. And quite tough right from the off, unless you know what you're doing, I tell you. Yeah, good stuff. And the last game we'll look at today is one of my absolute favourites. It's Episode 1 Racer. As I said, I used to have the dedicated console with this one. It's just great. So there you go. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I've certainly enjoyed playing it and putting it together. If you have, do please hit that subscribe button if you've not already. And if you have enjoyed it, do please give the video a like as well. Thanks very much for watching today, and I shall look forward to seeing you again next week with another Steam Deck video. Bye.